The 2023 NFL Draft is officially in the books as the Kansas City Chiefs add 7 rookies to their roster for the 2023 season. Today we will be recapping rounds 4 through 7 as the Kansas City Chiefs, they went defensive heavy, and we'll look into each one of those picks. But before we do, please be sure you subscribe to the channel, like this video, as I'm going to keep you up to date on anything Kansas City Chief related that you do not want to miss out on. And without further ado, let's have some fun. And just like that, the NFL Draft is done. We have been preparing for the draft since the Kansas City Chiefs were holding up the Lombardi, and it was a good preparation period. And now it's off to schedule releases, OTAs, training camp, and going into the 2023 regular season. First and foremost, though, I want to give Brett Veach a lot of kudos in this draft. And I don't think a lot of Chiefs Kingdom will, because they're focusing on the names of the players, which at the end of the day, you could even draft a big name player or trade up for a big name player. You do not know how they're going to turn out to the next level. Why I want to give Brett Veach credit is because the Kansas City Chiefs did not really have any glaring holes. They had areas of need they needed to fill, and he addressed them early, whether it be getting Patrick Mahomes the offensive weapon, adding a body on the offensive line, and bolstering up the defense is what he did throughout this whole draft. And also, a lot of these guys have huge upside. Actually, almost all of them do. They may be projects. It may take them a while to develop in the league, but it's a risk-reward thing. And when the reward is sweet, you can see why Brett Veach did what he did. Right now, we're going to focus on rounds 4 through 7 to cap up this NFL draft and to cap up our NFL draft experience. And let's go into round 4. And I know a little bit yesterday I talked about Chamari I just messed up his name completely. I think it was like Kamari. We're going to have to do like take 1, take 2, but Kamari Connors. There we go. Defensive back out of Virginia Tech. And the reason I want to talk about him a little more is because last night I kept watching him, and I mentioned that at the end of the day, we do not know what's going to happen with L'Jarius Sneed, unfortunately. Chiefs Kingdom, including I, would love to see L'Jarius Sneed sign a contract extension and be with the Kansas City Chiefs for a while. But we know how contract extensions go with Brett Veach, and we know what he did here as well is if he needs to address the area in need before a player re-ups, it's something he will do, and it's something he has done. Now that I focused a little more on Connor's game, and as we discussed, the dude can be a playmaker in this league. And we've seen with Brett Veach, the scouting reports, and the scouting staff, and Andy Reid, they love to get DBs in this area, round 4. That's what they did with L'Jarius Sneed as well. And Connor is no different. And you just look at Connor. He plays everywhere. He can be a safety. He can be a cornerback. Year 1, he's going to be Dave Toub's best friend because he's going to be the gunner on special teams, and it's something he excelled heavily at Virginia Tech in as well. The only concern with him, and it's something that I believe he just needs to be on the jugs machine, is he could have had so many more interceptions. But hey, you practice with the wide receivers, you buy yourself a jugs machine, and you just have 100 balls flying for you, that could be easily fixed as well. Connor is going to be one of my favorite guys the Kansas City Chiefs drafted. It's because he's one of those guys, again, where it's risk reward, and that reward could be very, very sweet just looking at the tape. He's a lengthy guy. He's good coverage. He knows how to get to the ball. I don't know if he knows how to catch the ball, but he's always in the area. And at the end of the day, if he's not making an interception, he's making a pass breakup. And then as a gunner too, it's very, very promising. He's always first down there, and he's always drilling either the punt returner or kick returner. I think Connors is going to be a name to watch next year. You may not see him on the defensive side of the ball maybe until later half of 2023, but you're going to see him on special teams. And there have been a few guys the Kansas City Chiefs has lost as gunners. Marcus Kemp, that's a huge one they lost. Chris Lamons as well. He unfortunately got signed by the Cincinnati Bengals. Those are 2 guys where the Kansas City Chiefs may need to fill that area, and Connor can do that day 1. Now, as we transition into round 5, the Kansas City Chiefs, another high-risk, high-reward player, they drafted another pass rusher, which is what Chiefs Kingdom has been hoping for. They did 2 in this draft out of Stephen F. Austin, B.J. Thompson. And this dude, he tests off the charts. He's an athletic freak. You could see if he just gets all the tools together, he could be someone very special on this defense. Initially, I think it's going to take him a minute though. He's going to be one of the most raw material guys that the Kansas City Chiefs have drafted this year. But at the end of the day, you could see why Steve Spagnuolo fell in love with him, because he's got bend, he's got a spin move, and he's got power. One of the key concerning facts is he is lengthy. That is very promising, but also he is on the smaller side. He needs to get on like a workout plan and like a heavy meal prep plan and put on an additional maybe 10 to 15 pounds of muscle. And if he can do that and still keep his speed and his twitch, he can be a difference maker at the next level. And we have seen the Kansas City Chiefs go down this road in the past, where in rounds 4 through 6, they will draft one of these raw material, experimental type of pass rushers. We've seen it with the likes of Joshua Kando, Mike Dana, and now you have BJ Thompson. Kando is still an experiment. We see Mike Dana. He has become and developed as a good rotational piece. And BJ Thompson, I believe if he gets all those like kinks together, gets that technique right, and puts on a little more muscle, he may have a better upside than Dana and Kando as well. I'm not going to say he's going to be an every down pass rusher, but he's going to be a guy you can depend on. He's going to be a guy where if you need someone to come in on third down, he can get after the quarterback. Also as well, you never know with what injuries can happen. If the Kansas City Chiefs happen to lose someone on the defensive line and he is brought up to speed, he could be someone who could be very fun to watch on this defensive line. The main concern right now is, can he get his weight and size up, and can he transition those talents after he gets his weight up to the NFL level? He's going to be someone I'm going to have my eyes on heavily throughout this training camp process and preseason. He's going to be the guy in preseason you're going to see come in the third and fourth quarter, and you're going to see him make a huge play, whether it be a tackle for loss in the backfield on a running back or a quarterback sack. And you're going to see his name and you're going to be like, oh, wow. He could be a playmaker on Sundays. And then also, in this year as well, it's going to be the ups and downs. We're going to see him maybe be out of place in certain characteristic issues on the field, to where it's like, oh, he wasn't in the right hole, he wasn't in the right position to get a running back. He's that type of player right now where he's that raw. But if you give him a full year to develop and maybe go into next year, he can be something very, very promising. I definitely love the value where they got BJ Thompson here. A lot of people thought he may have been a 7th round pick or an undrafted free agent, but at the end of the day, you got to understand what kind of position the Kansas City Chiefs are in, where they're picking in the back of most rounds, and also you don't want to take a risk of losing a guy you may want. We spoke on that aspect yesterday on Rashee Rice. If you love a guy, you go after and get him, no matter what round. And when it comes in the final day of the NFL draft, those projections, mock drafts, don't mean anything because they don't match to what teams' boards looked like. So if the Kansas City Chiefs had him higher up, which it looks like, you go get your guy in the 5th round. I think Thompson's going to be a fun experiment, and we're going to see the highs and we're going to see the lows, but you got to enjoy the roller coaster ride. Now we go into the 6th round at pick 194. The Kansas City Chiefs finally addressed the biggest area of need I felt, which was the defensive tackle with Keondre Coburn. And I think this was a solid pick. It could potentially be a steal. Coburn is a type of guy where I think he can be the Kansas City Chiefs' true nose tackle on the other side of Chris Jones. Again, this is another one where I don't believe the risk is that high, but the reward can be so beneficial. I think you can literally, in year one, rotate him with the likes of a Derek Nottie and a Tershawn Wharton as well. Literally week one, and just get him snaps and get him out there. He is that gap filler. He knows how to get to the running back, and occasionally he knows how to get after the quarterback. But also, I think one thing that's beneficial with Coburn as well is he knows how to swallow up linemen. Sometimes he can even draw double teams. I don't see that being the initial thing coming into the NFL, but once he gets his technique and craft down, that would be huge in the future for the Lights to help Chris Jones, because we know at the end of the day, even though Chris Jones beats double teams all day long, if you have someone else on the inside with him drawing another man, Chris Jones is going to be on another level if somehow, some way, he gets one-on-one matchups. And then just look at how this defensive line is coming together. You have Charles Omenihu, who was brought into this offseason. You have Felix Enudike Uzama, who was drafted, B.J. Thompson, Keandre Coburn, Derek Nottie, Tashawn Wharton, Chris Jones, George Karlaftis, Mike Dana, and Joshua Kando. That is deep upon deep. And I do expect the Kansas City Chiefs as well, when it gets into July, there is a lot of veteran pass rushers. You're going to stay dialed in. A guy like Frank Clark can come back. A guy like Carlos Dunlap can come back. A guy like Melvin Ingram can come back. I believe a veteran pass rusher will come. This could be one of the best defensive lines that the Kansas City Chiefs have had in years. And that would be huge this year, because we always anticipate and always hope going into a new year that, man, it would be so lovely to get Patrick Mahomes a top defense. And that may be the case. It's just, can they click early on? I'm loving what I see with Keandre Coburn, and I think he will be in the lineup earlier than later. I think he will show up in September, and then he will be a good rotational piece. I'm so excited because, honestly, as I mentioned, this was a hole I wanted the Kansas City Chiefs to focus on. And then when the draft kind of kept progressing, and then you got into day 3, I'm like, okay, what are we going to do at the defensive tackle position? Because the guys I was looking off was off the board. And I did see Coburn as well, but I didn't know if the Kansas City Chiefs would go that route, because there was also area needs that I thought the Kansas City Chiefs might focus on, whether it be running back, more on the offensive side of the ball. Brett Veach had a plan. It was, we're focusing on the defense. We're going to have a good unit next year to where Patrick Mahomes, he's going to do what he needs to do, and we're going to stop people. And I really, really love that plan. And we enter the final round of the NFL draft, and round 7 is nothing to sleep on, specifically with Brett Veach. We've seen it last year. He drafted Jalen Watson, he drafted Isaiah Pacheco, and even Nazeed Johnson at the end of the year got good playing time on special team and even on the defense. Well, also, he drafted a cornerback out of Ball State, Nick Jones. He is adding depth upon depth. Brett Veach loves to get cornerbacks, specifically later in the draft, and I was watching a little bit about Nick Jones, and he's a playmaker. He knows how to get after the football, and he actually knows how to come down with the football as well. And he's a lengthy guy as well. 6 foot. He knows how to press man. Like, he is really good at just getting his hand, stuffing it in a receiver's chest, and just playing man-on-man football. And it's funny to think, back in the day, we used to disregard 7th round picks. We would just think, oh, they're going to battle to get on the practice squad, be lucky to even get on the 53-man roster. That's not the case with the Kansas City Chiefs. He could fight to get on this roster, and he can literally fight to get playing time in September. We saw it with Jalen Watson, where week 2, he made the game-changing play against the Chargers. These rookies will get thrown into the lineup. With Nick Jones, he's another guy where the risk can be great, but at the end of the day, it's a 7th round pick. So there's really not that much risk to it. But the reward is where it can be amazing. And he's going to be a guy who will add immediate depth to the cornerback room. And like I mentioned with B.J. Thompson on the defensive line, to where if an injury happens to happen, you can plug and fill, and hopefully from now through training camp and preseason, he washes the playbook up like a sponge, like Jalen Watson did. We heard with Jalen Watson during training camp it seemed like he was a step behind. It seemed like he would struggle to make the roster. And then when the regular season just came in, oh, he made plays. And Nick Jones, he might be put in that same type of situation. Also, on special teams, he can be a gunner as well. He can even be a returner. I saw highlights where he was returning punts. That's what Brett Veach does in the 7th round. He doesn't look for guys that just does one thing. His 7th round picks, they will do multiple things, and he will find a way to where you will prove you can be on this roster. I think all in all with this Kansas City Chiefs draft, a lot of Chiefs Kingdom may not like the players, but all of them have huge, tremendous upside to where they can be difference makers into 2023 and into the future. I love what Brett Veach did with this draft. He addressed every area of need and got potential difference makers. And that's the huge thing at the end of the day. With that, Chiefs Kingdom, I am going to close off this video, but also I want to keep y'all in notice that we got a lot of undrafted free agents to talk about. Brett Veach was not done. I will have that video coming out tomorrow because he signed some good undrafted free agents to where they can make this roster next year as well. So that's going to be fun to talk about. But with that, I'm going to close out. Please be sure you do subscribe to the channel. If you did like this video, please leave that big thumbs up. Y'all take care. Peace.